The Xiaomi Mi Note Pro is a phone on the outside looking in. That's because it's a hot phone that's not readily accessible here in the US, so it's a prized phone that you'll need to import. Now, this beastly spec phablet has been available overseas for some time, so it's one of those things that gives the Galaxy Note 5 a good run for its money. Hey guys, John V from PhoneArena here. You're watching our video review of the Xiaomi Mi Note Pro. Specs and beauty, those are two things that stand out most with this import. The glossy plastic construction meeting a metal frame turns out pretty well for this one, just because it notches out an identity of its own, one that's impressively designed factoring its low costs. The subtle curves around the back of the phone in particular allow us to comfortably wrap our hand over it with ease. Everything about its design does nicely to compete against the Note 5, but it's lucky enough to be accompanied with such a refreshing design. The low cost isn't evident here at all, so we have to give Xiaomi credit for being able to craft such a graceful phone that doesn't show any hint of compromise. Now, if you want to stay relevant, it's a good idea to have Quad HD resolution with your display. And luckily, that's what we have here with the Xiaomi Mi Note Pro. It features a 5.7-inch Quad HD LCD display, so it provides for some impeccable detail. Super sharp, very detailed, no problems at all in that area. And there's also some other favorable qualities as well, but at the same time, there are some opportunities too. So for starters, let's talk about the good. The good here is that it reproduces colors pretty accurately. Now, we set the display to a standard mode, both for its contrast and also color balance. And with that, it's able to replicate pretty much all the colors in the color spectrum chart pretty accurately. Pretty good. Not as good as the Note 5 display, but better than some other phones. The other areas of opportunity though include things like its brightness output. Only at 424 nits, it's decent enough for most occasions, but outdoors with the sun present, it can be challenging. And on top of that, it has a 7600 Kelvin color temperature, so it tends to exude a colder tone with it. But despite that, it's not bad of a display. We wouldn't say it's polarizing as the Note 5, but at least it has Quad HD resolution. Everything about this phone screams cutting edge, and it's plainly obvious by just looking at the spec sheet. You have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 chip with 4 GB of RAM. It gives it enough power to propel it over the Note 5 in many instances, especially how it accrues slightly more frames than the Note 5 in some graphics processing operations. And then there's a Quad HD display, which makes it a relevant player in light of what's out there. At least there's something to like about with the simple and elegant layout of its MIUI 6.0 experience. There's nothing really different about it from other Xiaomi phones, aside from the fact that it's running on top of Lollipop now, and that's good and bad depending on how you look at it. It attempts to customize the stock Android interface to the point that where it's hard to recognize you have Android running in the phone. For some people, they'll think that it emulates iOS with its icon-filled home screen. However, there's just a lot of bloatware, and not the kind we're normally exposed to either with carrier phones. No, we're talking about all these Chinese apps that come preloaded. Yes, the simple and elegant design language of the experience is favorable, but it doesn't have a deeper roster of features to sell to power users, and that's what's preventing it from appealing to the same folks who crave the Note 5's extensive packaging. The Xiaomi Mi Note Pro ships with a 13 megapixel main camera using Sony's IMX214 CMOS sensor, and it's accompanied with a 6-element f2.0 aperture lens. You have a Philips two-tone flash and optical image stabilization. The front camera is also inviting with its 4 megapixel size. Topping that is an interface that copies the iPhone's design approach and simplicity. Still, we do like that it has quite a few settings that you can manually tweak, including a manual shooting mode. Shutterbugs will be delighted to know that the Mi Note Pro is quite a capable phone for all sorts of shooting situations. While it's undoubtedly good, we wouldn't necessarily say that it's better than the Note 5. To its credit though, the camera delivers top-notch results. So that consists of strong details, proper exposure, and natural looking colors for the most part. We're also pleased by its HDR mode, where it blends enough color saturation and exposure adjustment to the mix without making it too artificial. Under low light, noise is kept to a minimum, but the compromise is made in its softer details. Oddly though, the two-tone flash loses its effectiveness at around 7 feet, where it tends to wash out images. Having 4K video recording adds some versatility to its arsenal, but the results from it are rather underwhelming. Normally, there's a substantial amount of detail superiority that accompanies 4K capture, but there's just this softness to its quality that we don't like. It's something that manifests more with its 1080p recording. Worse yet, the scratchy audio recording is extremely distracting. In here, show you the continuous focus. Pretty fast there. The media experience on the Mi Note Pro is tailor-made for the Chinese market, starting from the gallery app and going to the music and video players. The music player is a very straightforward affair with no fancy options, and while the speaker cranks out 75.6 decibels of audio power, its quality in reality lacks depth, making it sound subdued. As for the video watching experience, it has no issues playing various formats and codecs. We can't complain about the experience either because it gets the job done. Still, the only missing thing here to solidify its package is just a handy multitasking element of some kind. Taking on a phone call is rather inviting with the Mi Note Pro, seeing that there's a decent amount of fidelity accompanying voices through the earpiece. Background noise is generally kept at bay, however, the speakerphone leaves much to be desired due to its subdued quality. On the other hand, callers are treated to deep and audible tones. The Note 5 set the bar high for phones packed with a 3000 mAh battery. So how does the Xiaomi Mi Note Pro's same capacity perform? It's just unsatisfying. In our day-to-day use, the 3000 mAh battery gets us through a solid 8-hour work shift, but it's generally in the red way before we're even close to getting into bed. Under our battery benchmark tests, it sputters out a mere 5 hours and 22 minutes, which is a far cry from the 9+ hours we get from the Note 5. One bright spot in all of this, however, is found in how it takes 93 minutes to get its battery cell back to 100%. To date, the Mi Note Pro is the most impressively spec'd phone in Xiaomi's lineup, easily capable of competing in the same capacity as some of the other notable smartphones in the space right now. From a spec sheet standpoint, the phone is formidable and it's fully capable of garnering attention. The biggest attraction is that the phone can be bought on the cheap, and we're talking about $480 for this bad boy. That alone might be enough to compel some folks to import it. Now, the specs might be mighty fine with this, we're not denying that, but it still performs slightly behind the Note 5 in many areas. Furthermore, it doesn't have nearly the same amount of diversified features that cater to power users. The low cost and drool-worthy spec sheet give the Xiaomi Mi Note Pro a lot of credibility in garnering attention. However, it still lacks the solid performance and meaningful experiences to really give the Note 5 any sort of threat.